This battery is toast, I thought, staring at a Prius pack, sitting at 2.89 volts, basically zero. Yet when I hooked it up to a cheap repair mode charger and left it pulsing all night, the reading jumped to a solid 12.8 volts by morning. Suddenly, the same battery that wouldn't light a dome lamp could start a car. Moment of truth. Was this a real comeback, or just a temporary mask over permanent damage? That's the story we're about to unpack, where the science, the hacks, and the real-world results all collide. Before we move on, please take a moment to subscribe to the channel and like the video. Everyone assumes a dead car battery just drained itself dry, but what if that's not what's killing it at all? Inside every lead-acid battery, a slow chemical shift takes place, and instead of something you can see or feel, it shows up in the form of microscopic crystals. These aren't shiny gemstones lined across the plates. They're deposits of lead sulfate. They start small, invisible to the eye, but they can completely change how your battery behaves over time. That's the part most drivers never think about, because nothing on your dashboard warns you about it. This invisible buildup is called sulfation. When a battery discharges, sulfur in the acid forms crystals on the metal plates. Under normal use, recharging dissolves these crystals back into the electrolyte, and the cycle keeps working. The problem comes when the battery stays discharged for days, or even just a few long hours on a cold winter night. That's when the soft crystals begin to harden. At first, they're like chalk dust, easy to wash away with a recharge. Over time, though, they become like concrete, dense, solid, and almost impossible to break down. Once that happens, the active areas on the plates where energy should be stored are effectively locked off forever. This explains why throwing a charger on a weak battery doesn't always solve the problem. You might see it reach 12 volts on the meter, but take away the charger, and the reading drops right back down. That's not a sign of low charge. It's a sign those hardened crystals have walled off much of its storage space. Jump-starting or trickle charging can't touch that blockage. The energy input flows around it, but the battery can't actually hold on to it anymore. Think of the difference like this. Soft sulfation is like mud smeared on a surface. It can be rinsed off as current flows. Permanent sulfation is more like cement poured into cracks. Once it sets, it's never coming back out. This is not just a theory either. Research in Batteries in a Portable World outlines how the chemistry of lead sulfate transforms under different states of charge, and why time spent sitting discharged multiplies the chances of permanent failure. That means the worst thing you can do is let a car sit with a flat battery through a weekend or longer. So the two possible paths for any dying battery are pretty clear. In the reversible stage, the damage is mild. A strong enough charge with the right spikes can break the crystals down, giving you a shot at full recovery. In the permanent stage, there is zero chance. No matter what you add, whether it's charging current, chemicals, or a miracle additive from the internet, the plates are already sealed off. Knowing which stage your battery is in makes the difference between a revival and wasted effort. Interestingly, some modern chargers are designed to fight this battle on purpose. Those models with a repair mode don't just pump steady voltage. They deliberately send pulses, sometimes pushing 16 volts or more. The spikes create heat and micro vibrations inside the plates, making it harder for soft sulfation to cling. That's why you might see a battery that looked totally lifeless suddenly climb back to a usable reading overnight. Timing makes all the difference here. Catching crystals while they're still soft means you have options. Waiting too long can lock you into a permanent loss. And that leads to the next big question. If some dead batteries can come back with the right method, how do those internet tricks and repair modes really stack up? Are they genuine solutions, or just flashy shortcuts that buy you an extra week? Let's put those so-called 30-second fixes to the test and see what actually holds up in real life. Can a car battery really be fixed in 30 seconds? Or is that just one more internet claim that looks good in a short video but falls apart in real life? If you've spent any time scrolling through forums or watching life hack clips, you've probably seen a whole list of supposed instant cures. They range from tapping the battery posts with a wrench to splashing soda into the cells, and in some cases, even dropping an aspirin tablet into the fluid. The classic pitch is always the same: quick, cheap, and it seems to work right away. But the problem is that most of these methods only deal with what you can see, while the real damage is buried deep in the plates and the chemistry. It's true that some of the simplest tricks can revive a battery just long enough to get the engine to turn over. For example, tightening or tapping corroded terminals might restore electrical contact for a spark, while pouring fresh distilled water into a low cell can stabilize voltage for a brief boost. These fixes aren't magic though. They only correct surface-level issues: dirt, corrosion, evaporation. The moment you ask the battery to hold a charge overnight, the weak chemistry underneath the plates drags everything back down again. That's why so many people think their battery was fine after a trick, only to find out the next morning it's flat again. Chemical hacks take things a step further. Adding Epsom salt, baking soda, or aspirin is meant to eat away some of the sulfate buildup or temporarily alter the acidity of the solution inside. On paper, it sounds logical. Change the chemistry, challenge the crystals. In practice, these powders and tablets don't reach evenly into each cell. Sometimes they leave residue, increased corrosion, or even gas off harmful fumes. What looks like a clever revival can actually shorten the usable life of the battery by stressing it further. The short charge you get afterward may make you feel like it worked, but it's closer to tricking the battery than restoring it. On the other side are more controlled interventions, like using a charger with a repair mode. These devices don't just feed the battery with a steady trickle, they push controlled voltage pulses that can rise as high as 16 volt. That sudden pressure brings heat and agitation inside the battery, and with a bit of luck, it can break apart the softer sulfate before it hardens. Compare that to a completely physical approach, like cleaning the posts and coating them with petroleum jelly. Cleaning gives you clear contact, which reduces resistance at the terminals, but only the repair mode is actually challenging sulfation directly. The real-world results can look dramatic. That same Prius pack that was sitting at 2.89 volt, essentially stone dead, climbed back to a full 12.8 volt after running all night on an inexpensive repair charger. Another case saw a common Everstart lead-acid battery recover from total slump, eventually stabilizing just above 12.6 volts, which is close to what you'd see in a healthy unit. At first glance, those numbers look like a perfect comeback. With a glance at a meter, you'd think the battery is as good as new. But the critical question isn't just whether the voltage comes back for a day. The real question is how long before it slips down again once placed under real load. That's why safety matters so much in this discussion. Forcing higher currents through a weak battery produces gas, vapor, and heat. If you touch a case after extended repair mode runs, you'll often find it warm or even uncomfortably hot. That heat is a sign something inside is breaking down further. There's also a line you should never cross. Applying repair mode to lithium batteries is dangerous. These chemistries react differently under stress and can vent or even catch fire when subjected to pulses designed for lead-acid types. What saves an old car battery might ruin a modern lithium unit permanently. So, what can you expect from these approaches? Quick hacks and surface fixes can get a car running again long enough to move it from the driveway, but they do not change the underlying chemistry. Only true desulfation attempts even try to reverse that process, and the outcome still depends on whether the sulfate has hardened beyond recovery. Success is never a guarantee, no matter how many videos claim otherwise. The real insight here is that understanding what's happening on the inside helps you decide when to try a hack, when to invest in a repair tool, and when it's simply smarter and safer to replace the battery altogether. A car battery doesn't usually quit in one dramatic moment. It fades steadily as sulfation spreads across the plates, and once that buildup hardens, no amount of recharging or quick trick will bring it back. That's why those instant fixes you see online should be treated as temporary stopgaps. Use them only to buy time, not as permanent solutions. When sulfation is still soft, a proper desulfator or repair charger might help. But when the chemistry is locked, replacement is the only option. The longer a battery stays completely dead, the lower its odds of recovery. So timing is everything.